Hi, and welcome to Cedar Weekly, home of innovation and creation, where you can tune in to listen to up and coming artists sharing about the future of art and business, while at the same time connect you with hundreds of individuals making a difference. Today, I'm here with Maurice, who is an entrepreneur and an adventure enthusiast. He runs a blog that covers topics ranging from philosophy to all the way on the other side of the spectrum, like DIY car renovations and travel tips, as well as a luxury real estate photography business, among many other super cool things. And he is one of the coolest people I've ever had the privilege of meeting, and I'm very excited to dive into this conversation. So, without further ado, welcome, Ethan.
Thank you. Gosh, that was a nice intro. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. And it was really hard to decide what to talk to you about today, as I was saying earlier, because it's just there's so many great conversations we have. I was telling my brother, I think that I'd love just to have a podcast that was like every week we were just talking about something different. It's just like all these conversational segments that we could just explore life. But today, why don't we just start by you explaining just a brief overview of what it is you're up to at the moment?
Yeah. Okay. So I have a blog. I've written the blog for about 5 years now, I guess. As we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm 5 years into it. It's by my name. It's ethanmaurice.com, and I write a lot. I also I've done some kind of experimental community type things. Like I've hosted a couple of gatherings of
Mm-hmm.
just like creative and adventurous people, and I hope to do more of that when COVID's over. Um, I I have I'm in Phoenix right now. I guess I came back to Phoenix. I'm in my parents' house right now, to be quite honest.
As a lot
Um,
of people are, I'm sure.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So is the time now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I came back a year ago to learn to fly airplanes. I thought I'd be a pilot, and I earned my private pilot's license, and then coronavirus kind of hit, and there are no more jobs for pilots. For new pilots, if you have 15,000 hours flying a plane, you can maybe get a job, but if you have 70 hours like me, you're very far from
Yeah.
getting a job. So I started a real estate photography business with my friend who's also going to flight school, and doing that for about a year, breaking up some steam at it. We shoot lots of big houses and stuff, but we shoot big houses, but we're hoping to shoot more big houses. This frequency is a big thing.
Well,
But
you were
so yeah,
sorry.
go for it.
You were saying this week, right, as well, that you just had a pickup of shoots that you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We had three booking. We shot three things today and had three bookings today, which was
Wow.
one of our bigger days yet. So yeah, it's we're getting the ball rolling. Hopefully, I'm excited about it. Hope it works out.
Yeah, and I'll put the links as well in the transcript. But yeah, you should definitely go check out the website. When I first saw it, I was like, wow, it looks really professional. As a
Oh.
graphic amateur graphic designer, I was incredibly impressed. I was like,
Ah,
it looks very professional. So,
I really appreciate that because I spent 4 months 4 months working on that website. In that I had my head stuck in that box right there. That's my stand up desk, and
oh wow.
yeah, it was my first foray into WordPress, and it was
Wow.
quite the effort. So thank you,
Well, it
appreciate
paid
that.
off for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you aren't lying when you're saying you're shooting like super luxury houses and hotels as well, if I'm right. So you were busy with some of that as
Yeah.
well.
It's very that's, I guess, maybe an actionable tip. I When we started our business, we just went to like Airbnb and just messaged a bunch of people that had like really big mansions with like kind of half decent photos, and we're like, hey, like we'll take your photos we'll take photos of your house for free if we can use them on our website.
Mm.
And these people were, someone agreed to that, so we shot this like really big mansion that Mike Trout, outfielder for the Angels, actually rented for spring training after we shot it, I
Wow.
guess. So pretty big
Wow.
to start. We just kind of did for free, and then we were into flying airplanes and had a because we were going to flight school, and our flight instructor also flew helicopters. So we
Mm.
kind of like offered that we could shoot houses from helicopters. Uh, like for like a very expensive amount of money. So people are like, wow, these guys are really legit.
Yeah.
They have a helicopter they can shoot out of there. And where really we had like, very little experience and just kind of threw some stuff together. So it ended up working out very well. So,
Yeah.
so far, so good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very, I don't know what you say. It's a story of successful entrepreneurship right there, just kind of like going for it. And I know you said as well, like your friend is very good at being the persistent one and approaching people and getting those
Yeah.
deals. So
Yeah, I actually have to like most of that story is like 90% his credit. He's good at that. He's really good at that stuff.
yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I do want to put a huge spotlight though on your blog as well because that's really where I really want to direct all of you
Yeah,
towards because
yeah, yeah.
I mean unless you're in the realm of wanting your house shot, which maybe you are, um but yeah, his blog is incredible and I still haven't gotten to explore all the I mean you like you said you've been at it for 5 years so you have a great backlog
Yeah,
of tons of great articles and yeah, ranging from a lot of different topics, but you have some good free resources and good recommendations and all sorts of stuff. So we can talk more about that at the end, so people know where to look and everything. But
cool.
I'm curious just to know where this all began. You know, how did you get to this point of especially you talk about it's 5 years now, and now you've just started the photography business, but for you, where did this dream and vision and start?
Yeah, yeah, and I also like it's definitely for me it's definitely about the blog and the writing and everything. The photography business is it's a way to make money because my blog doesn't really make money. You have to do a
Yeah,
little bit of that, I guess.
yeah,
But yeah, the blog is I put really a lot of effort into it. But I guess where did I start? I 5 years ago. No, I'm sorry. I got to take this back to 2013.
mm,
I rode a bicycle across. This is like everything started for me when I rode a bicycle across the United States in 2013. Uh, Me and my brother raised $96,000 for Phoenix Children's Hospital doing it because well, I guess we could go back even further. Maybe we should just start at the beginning. When I was
okay,
16 years old, I was bit by a mosquito, and uh, and I had a rare brain infection of like the fluid surrounding my brain from this mosquito bite. This virus got in there and crushed my brain, um, and I had some serious effects. I was in a coma for 4 days. I had like some lingering and kind of brain damage issues after that, and had to go through about 8 months of rehab. Missed a year of school and had to like get back a lot of stuff to like end up graduating high school with my class and everything. And that kind of was this like basis of just realizing that how short like our lives are, or how short life can be, but how fickle and how at any moment we could just be done with the great dance here. And
yeah,
that really changed me a lot. And riding the bicycle across the United States was sort of this like thing that was just like I was interested in it, but the only reason I did it is because I knew that I was gonna, like I'm gonna die one day, and it's
mm,
just something I really want to do. So screw it, I'm gonna do this, and kind of went for something way out of my league, out of my comfort zone, and did this thing, and it just turned out like it just turned out fantastic. I was just very very lucky how everything pieced together, and the Phoenix. I rode to raise money for Phoenix Children's Hospital, and these
which
people.
which was the one that you were in a coma in, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 and their like foundation put like a bunch of backing behind us and stuff,
Hmm.
and got us like on the news and everything, and all this just like snowballed. And I wrote, and so we rode across and raised this money, but I wrote a blog
Hmm.
as we rode across, and I never wrote anything, never didn't liked reading books a little bit and stuff, but wasn't really that into writing as anything. But as I did that, I just a lot of people saw what what I was writing, and a lot of nice comments flowed my way and stuff. And I think life's kind of like like we tend to like if when like a lot of energy like that kind of like poured through me in that way, you might say. And
Hmm.
and I just like after that was just kind of like maybe I should just keep writing some things. Like what should I didn't really know, but I just kind of had a feeling of to go that way. And I I ended up starting a blog, which now has my name on it and about 120 articles. Yeah, so that's
Wow.
kind of I got the long, windy origin story of it. Um, as far as what it's about, though, like it started out, I guess the name of it was originally the living theory,
Mm.
and the whole idea, it's death is a big motivating, or just kind of like insight producing factor for me or something. And that was uh, that was kind of the foundation of it originally, the living theory, and being this just kind of like going out there and living with zest and just grabbing life by the horns uh,
Yeah.
and doing things. But it kind of led me into all sorts of other ideas and realms, and I traveled a lot while I was doing it, and read lots and lots of books, and came into a bunch of other ideas along the way, and developed maybe a more nuanced perspective of life. And I'm interested in all sorts of things now that go into the blog. So it's hard to like. It used to be a travel blog, sort of travel slash inspiration, and now it's just kind of becoming an eclectic mix of that and philosophy and lots of other things that I enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's yeah, I think on your blog you have an article specifically about talking about your perspective on having that close brush with death and how that kind of changed your perspective. And I think you say it helped increase your quality of life. Like remembering death helps increase the quality of your life currently. Um,
Yeah.
how do you see, like you're talking about the idea of memento mori, which is remember death, and you even carry a coin, a token around that
Yes. Yeah.
is a symbol of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I usually carry it in my left pocket. I had it on my desk already, but there it is for you. I actually I was I've been very into the idea of remembering death for the purpose of living a better life. Basically, it's just like I don't know, it puts everything in perspective. Like
Mm.
we always think back to like or we think about people that are like on their deathbed, and that they have a certain kind of like wisdom,
Yeah.
because they're at the end and they can see their life for kind of everything it was through it and everything, and that uh, like values become very obvious, like kind of at the end, and stuff like what matters, what doesn't.
Mm.
And there's all these kind of weird, like kind of counterintuitive benefits to it, and gifts that I think as a culture we just kind of bury because
Mm.
we don't want to think about it, because it's very it can be very terrifying to realize that you're not going to be here forever. It's kind of a bummer,
Mm.
but there's I think that positives and negatives come with everything comes with positives and negatives, and if there's a great big negative to death, there I think there has to be an equal great big positive to it. And I guess I have spent a good amount of time looking at those positives and looking for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, this has become, I guess, what you call a life philosophy for you. And you really have like already you've accomplished so much in these past, what, how many years would that be now? since
Oh
you
yeah,
rode across America,
yeah, 7 years now. Yeah,
7 years ish.
yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah, yeah.
um, you have you have an impressive list of things you've done. I mean, riding across America first and foremost to raise money for charity is something that you already separate yourself from the majority of the
Yeah,
population.
yeah, that was a big one.
Um,
Yeah, that was.
but I wish I had the list with me right now. I know you wrote an article kind of
Yeah.
laying out some of the things you've done, but you really took this life philosophy, and you also talk a lot about living in the moment and appreciating um, the perspective, uh, the idea of perspective as it pertains to all this as well, of how everyone is given kind of this unique lens that you view life through, and then as you increase experience and increase observation and all these things, you basically expand the lens that you're able to see life through. Um, so how do you see this kind of this life philosophy you have, remembering death, getting these new experiences, doing these big things, living in the moment? How do you see that kind of playing out in your life?
Yeah. I guess every it's these are things that like impact. I mean, not every moment of my everyday, but hundreds of moments of my day, probably
Hmm.
just in little ways and in big ways and stuff. I guess I mean like just there's a I mean I guess my lens, so this idea of like a lens that is like kind of capable. You're only kind of capable of experiencing what you're uh, kind of capable of seeing, and there's kind of like belief is tied into this, and experience is tied into all these things. And so my kind of I guess my idea originally was to just go out and have all this very broad range of experiences to try and gain perspective and
Mm.
gain a better understanding of the world and stuff like that. But in going around and doing these different things, from like deep like meditation retreat, or pedaling a bicycle across the United States, or uh, just living in another country for a while, those are things that like kind of uncover like blind spots in a like, at least for me, I had plenty of blind spots to be
Mm.
uncovered in doing those things. And I think that if we, in kind of taking a broad stroke at life like that, you can gain kind of like tools, sort of, or something that you can take into your everyday and use like in your life. And I think one way, like I guess, like I came across the idea of like absurdism
Mm.
uh, 2 years ago or something, and I was telling you about it before we started our before we started
The
recording
recording.
here. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I was blasting down the highway today, going between photography shoots, and we were driving under. I'm going down this highway about 75 miles an hour next to downtown Phoenix, and there's this park that's over the highway. They built a park and a tunnel under it, and
Mm-hmm.
I was going, like 75 miles an hour in this tunnel with these lights. I'm passing like semi trucks like 2 feet from me, and I'm just like completely like at ease. Like this is just boring, everyday, normal. Like here I am, like drive. I just got to get to this next shoot so I can get home and do something else. And I had this flash of like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like I think that like everything is like that, and that can be found anywhere. Like right now, we're having a conversation, and you're in Oregon, which is kind of a figurative. I mean, Oregon doesn't really exist. It's just we named it Oregon. You're 1,500 miles away from me in Arizona,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we're conversing face to face, having like incredible conversation. Uh, and through the internet, and these things are just so crazy and mind-blowing, but we're just used to them, you
Mm.
know and that's like that's like the kicker for me all the time. It's like to try, like that's just one of those tools to just try and oh, like this is crazy, like this is actually, because everything is actually crazy. Like here's like my glass of water. I just pulled the faucet and it came out, and it's like, I can, and I have clean water whenever I want from my faucet. Just that, like, everywhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess I don't know. I'm kind of rambling on the absurdism
No.
specifically, but those things help tremendously. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's fascinating thinking about this idea of wonder being lost in society today that runs at such a fast pace with technology and with all the things that have been introduced over the years that we take for granted now, and we don't realize that these things are incredible, not just technology, but even just the things that have been here for thousands of years that
Yeah.
we forget. My brother and I took a road trip this summer, and just having that chance to be outside of an area where I can use my phone, or just choosing not to, and just we lived in his car, that which you helped him design through
Yeah.
your blog, and just experiencing these different ecosystems and environments, and being there and realizing that these are always existing. Like, these are not things that live in this, like, my little bubble of understanding and reality is not everyone's understanding of reality, and that even places where no one is, it's still wonder is happening 24/7. And it's such a glorious moment when we get into touch with that. And I think you're much more in touch with that than I am, but that was a moment for me of just starting to realize a bit again of, like, wow, I need to take a second to kind of appreciate those things, and the things that we quickly run over as we try and get to the next thing, like you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think, and these things are the beauty of wonder and of just kind of awareness in general, and your ability to place it in all these different ways, and all these different levels and everything is it just like, you can never, if you realize that you can change all the, you can change all the dials, you can spin the kaleidoscope, you can always
Mm-hmm.
spin the kaleidoscope. And for me, during like coronavirus and stuff, spinning the kaleidoscope has been very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
I forget, I felt quite stuck
Mm-hmm.
since came here to learn to fly airplanes, and just kind of, I was going to fly on out to Alaska, and
Mm-hmm.
and keep bouncing on, and I know I'm just kind of here in Phoenix, at my parents' house, and but these kind of strategies like that to reconnect with the wonder that I might have found, on a mountain top in New Zealand. I can, there are ways to tap into that same thing is here. It's in my parents' house. It's in
Mm-hmm.
your room. It's everywhere. It's just in the fabric of like reality. But
Mm-hmm.
it just takes kind of orienting your mind right to kind of reconnect with it. And um, I don't know. I constantly also lose sight of that too. I don't want to give people the feeling like, oh, I have everything figured out by any means. But these are strategies, for reconnecting with awe.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think kind of where I'm leading, and where I really want to get at, is kind of where this converges with creativity and your entrepreneurship as well, because that's kind of, I mean, that's the focus of what I do here, really, and what we
Yeah.
talk about. But I know that you have this, you've developed, and you've spent years kind of learning and experiencing and doing things and just soaking it all in. So how for you is your creativity and your entrepreneurship kind of, I almost see it as it's you squeezing that sponge and then allowing room to soak again, and then squeezing it and soaking. Um, I'm curious, how do you see those things converge for you?
Uh, yeah. Well, are you talking about the intersection between kind of the entrepreneurship and the creativity? Like, how do they fit
Well,
together so much? Is that where you're
more,
trying to hit it?
I think what I'm trying to say is more your, like we've been talking about memento mori, and we're talking about your, this idea of wonder and appreciating life and experiencing things and doing big things. Um, but then on this other side, you have a blog and you have this photography business and you're going to go fly airplanes and all these different things. And so for you, this philosophy of life that you've developed from coming from this place of being close brush with death and figuring out, how do I want to live life? What is the meaning of this? How then has that developed into your entrepreneurship and your creativity in these avenues that you've pursued?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just it pervades it. It's fully. Gosh, it's I think that I try to do. I try to do business. Like I try to do business, like with the photography, and I try to. And when I write, I'm like I'm trying to kind of come from the same place the whole time. Like if I, like if I do a photo shoot and spend an hour and hour and 15 minutes in an empty house with a realtor or something. For me, it's like, I had to, focusing on the art and the craft of taking photos and everything, but it's
Mm,
also just as important to connect with that person and like, share with them and just kind of be in the same sort of way that I exist everywhere else. Um, and I like, as far as like in the blog and everything, like the I mean, it's just like, I guess I'm just I'm just trying to share all that. It's like it's
mm-hmm,
really it's just it's trying to. I think I get meaning. I think I get meaning out of giving, of passing on things that help me and like have enabled me and made me feel better in life and stuff. And it's just like helping other people feels really good. And I think I've learned a lot of things from books and writing, and my brain tends to process writing in a very good way. I soak things in very well when people write them, and I receive them very well. So I'm just trying to share the things that kind of most help me in life with everybody else. And I guess that's kind of in some ways I'm trying to just share with the realtors and stuff too,
yeah,
when I'm doing the doing the photography.
yeah. And I think that's awesome that you're able to find a way to blend those things, even when they don't necessarily lend themselves specifically well to being the perfect expression of that, but still finding those ways of bringing it in.
Yeah, yeah, it can be a challenge with definitely. I mean, in real estate and doing, people are, it's a very like numbers game. People are playing and stuff, but we're all like, we're all humans too, and everyone, even though people may seem, like very businessy and stuff, just a couple like questions, and you can kind of end up at a much deeper level
Mm,
with somebody, and sharing a moment sometimes with like an unlikely, maybe an unlikely candidate to share a moment with or something. So yeah, I'm always trying to do that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that's something that we've talked about before, I know, and it's something it inspires me, is your I guess your approach to social interaction, of seeing every social opportunity as a chance to learn and to see something, and you're such a good listener, and you're so good at drawing people in and making people feel comfortable as well, which is so hard to do. It's easy to gloss over, but that is such a skill to have. And it's something that it's forced me to think a lot, because I've talked about this in my past couple interviews, but I'm really passionate about this idea of community, but a worldwide community, a mentality, this shared idea of I can give a hand, I can take a hand, and I've said
Yeah.
this before, but that we have the capacity to learn and to give and to receive and to teach. And I feel like your blog is this great method of you doing that, but then you do the other part of the process in your daily life. You go out there and you experience and you talk to people and you receive and you grow and you read, which is another way of communicating with people that you've never met, but you're in a way having this conversation with them. um, and then you're taking it to this new dimension and having these people who come and tune into your blog and your newsletter and all these things, and then you're sharing it with these people, and then these people can go, like my brother, who was inspired and decided to go on this big road trip and fix his car up, and then I met you through that, and it was
Yeah.
just crazy coincidences one after another. And but that's how you live your life. I know you have so many stories of what you call serendipity, of just things snowballing and things that you never envisioned or you never planned
Mm-hmm.
happening, and then meeting people you never thought you'd ever meet, and learning things you never thought you were going to learn, and then sharing that with other people and encouraging them to go do the same. I think that's a beautiful thing, and it plays out in so many different avenues of good art. I feel like that format is what I think makes good art and good business at the same time, is
Mm-hmm.
that you're what you're experiencing and what you're believing in your everyday life, what your everyday philosophy is, should be then a direct pouring out in whatever you're doing, that's your creative outlet, whether it's business or whether it's physical art or music or speaking or comedy, or I don't know, whatever it is, that they're uh, intimately tied together. They're inextricably tied together.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that I just this is like it's like there's just so many there's so many ways to like take these things and express them and push them forward. And yeah, like anything, like any act can be like, I read a quote last week about like any act could be it is like is it was an act of art to this person. Like the way I eat is art. The way I,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
way I communicate, the way I dress, the way I, like it just everything was for them was art to them. And yeah, I've tried to get better at that too, especially this year, because I've been traveling for I traveled for like 5 years for like most of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having all these new great experiences and all this like wonder and everything. And then I'm back here at home. I'm in Phoenix. I'm not going out very much, just only to shoot houses for only photography. And I've had to really work to like get to find those same things that were so easy to find out there.
Mm.
They're a lot harder to get to. They're a lot harder to express and connect in those ways and stuff. And I think that coronavirus in some way is that's like the gift, like one of the gifts of like with all,
Mm.
as I said earlier, I believe like everything comes with positives and negatives. And there's coronavirus has had many very obvious negatives in my life, but maybe that's one of the positives I'm realizing now, is that
Mm.
I've gotten a little better at finding those things that were more obvious in my life before the pandemic, finding and creating them, and we're just kind of helping them blossom is kind of maybe more what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
a that's
Mm,
yeah, that's a good thing from a pretty bad thing. So that's good. Yeah.
yeah. And it's so important to have those moments of perspective, especially in times like this. And I think, yeah, as as we've talked today, I've really appreciated what you've had to say as well, both in this conversation and before we were talking, and just that I feel like there's always more to the picture, that as humans we like to zero in on things and to focus on, I guess, either the positives or the negatives. But it's hard to keep things in a balance, and to be willing to have that more zoomed out perspective and to be able to recognize things for more of what they are, is that not everything's going to be pretty and not everything's going to be ugly, that beauty is, again, inextricably tied between that tension of dark and light, of good and evil, however you want to look at it.
Yeah,
um
yeah. And all the shades in between. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what creates that contrast, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, I think if everything were like just purely great all the time too, we just get used to it, and then it would probably be like the worst, probably be the worst thing. Like just like yeah, the mind just kind of adapts,
Yeah.
and yeah, I kind of that's one of the things I kind of expect after like if we get to like a life post coronavirus where everyone can go back out again. I think we're all going to go back out with like a lot of like zest and like gusto because
Hmm.
it's just as a response to that,
Yeah.
which is a beautiful thing, and
Yeah.
I'm very excited for.
The scales will finally tip to the other side.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. The yin and the yang. Yes. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I like to do a little fun thing with my guests. I like to do a sort of it started as a rapid fire question round. It's more of just 10 fun questions that we'll try and make rapid fire, but it doesn't always happen, which is fine.
All
um,
right. Sounds good.
but hopefully these gonna give a little more insight into who you are and what you do, and I don't know, just interesting things. But the first one is, who is someone you look up to?
Oh man, I have a lot of heroes. Most of them are from books or wrote books.
Mm,
Um, I'll say Jack Gilbert is probably my greatest hero right now. He was a poet,
mm,
and he has a book called, it's just like collected poems by Jack Gilbert,
mm.
and it sits in front of our toilet at our house, and I read it a couple times every day.
uh, uh,
And it just brightens, really brightens my day. But he was just interested in the like just the most he kind of lived, he enjoyed like living in poverty and like and these things that were in just experiences that were like raw and like real, and he just is like a great reminder of what is what is great in the everyday. And
mhm,
yeah, he's definitely one of my greatest heroes because he was the he was the king of stubborn gladness, you
mm.
might say. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I haven't heard of him. I'll have to check that out. That's cool though. What is one experience you'd love to do but haven't had the opportunity to do yet?
Mm, I'd like to learn to surf. I
Uh,
I would love to. I'd love to spend a couple months like on just some like small beach town somewhere with waves and just right in the morning and surf all day
I'll
and
teach you.
see how
I'll
that
teach
goes.
you.
You should. Let's go.
Let's go. After this, let's just go. Meet you in the
Tomorrow.
morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could have everyone in the audience live one experience that you have lived in your life, what would that be?
Oh wow. Geez. Uh, God, I there's some things that were like great things that I also wouldn't wish, like
Hmm.
the positives and negatives, like I might
Yeah.
say almost dying, well, like a
Yeah.
near death experience is a wonderful thing, but it's also
A weird thing to
not
wish
something
on
to wish
someone.
on people.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, maybe like um, uh, one experience in particular I liked was getting to the end of reaching the other side of the continent on a bicycle and doing some huge, in, just insurmountable feat that I didn't know I could possibly do and couldn't fathom, and dipping my tire in the Atlantic Ocean, and then like realizing that it didn't really matter to anybody.
Mm,
It didn't really matter to the world, like there's all these people on the beach and they're just like, oh yeah, we're just hanging on the beach, there's a guy with
yeah.
his bike in the ocean,
Yeah.
what's up with that.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful and cool, and also like just like, well, like just kind of like a little flatlining at the same time. And
Mm,
I think that was a very insight producing moment of life.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Having that yeah, I can't find the word for it, but yeah. Good answer.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
lost for
I'm
my
not sure there
words.
is a word for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, if you could expand yourself entrepreneurially in one way and there were no boundaries, what would you do or implement?
Oh man. uh, I I'm, I'm working on something right now that is I'll probably put out in like a month. That is my answer. It's I don't know.
Okay.
I don't really know if I want to go into introducing the whole thing. In a month, it'll come out, and I hope everyone will look at it. Uh, I, I, maybe I'll just talk. Maybe I'll just talk about it. It's an interesting idea.
Let's go.
This is just a weird. I tend to think about weird things and get obsessed with them. And I was thinking about how there's no like best. There's no way to like find like how do you find what is best on the internet? Like
Mm.
you can't like search and get it. You can't like I used to think that Reddit was like the way, like this website where there's upvoting, there's
Uh,
categories, and then people upvote things, and that would be the way to get the best stuff. But it's like subject to all this kind of like gaming and clever lines and
yeah.
memes and stuff
Hmm.
went out. And so I was thinking about all this, like there's got to be a way to just like share what is best. And I'm building this thing. I'm going to call it a needle stack. And
Mm.
the idea is that the internet is a giant hay
Haystack.
bale,
Uh-huh.
and every once in a while you find a needle in the hay bale.
Yeah.
And if everyone like would just like, oh, I found a needle, and then like put it in your
Hmm.
separate it, and you have a nice little page on your I'm going to have a nice page on my blog
Yeah.
that has all my needles in a stack. And
Yeah.
I'm going to ask other people to create needle stacks,
Mm.
and then we'll put like links between our needle stacks, and the whole world will have what is best on the internet, and we'll solve the problem. So that's in theory in my head. That's how it's totally going to go. But it'll
Of
probably be just me
of
making
course.
it, and then some people might like what they find in there, but I don't know. But we'll see if it spreads world round. But fingers crossed on that
Wow. Well, you've got one believer, so at least. But
one.
that's awesome, man. That's really cool. Yeah. I mean, I constantly, I think this year in particular, I feel like this is the best time to be doing something like that because people are so tired. I've heard this many times from many people in my life, but I can harp this all day of just, I, there's been months where I've just felt so down with like, I'm a person who likes to have my cards on the table. I like to know what I'm dealing with, and I like to be able to be like, okay, here's what's happening. Now I'm gonna take a breath and figure out what I'm gonna do with that. Um, but when you get into the world of the internet, oftentimes you don't even know what is reality, what is truth, what is what's actually happening. Where's something that's worth getting the spotlight? Why is all this stuff happening? And you know, all sorts of stuff this year has just, I mean, you talked about COVID a lot, it's just been all over the place. Where do we go? Where do we listen? So
Yeah.
I think people, I think there is a great need for something like that, and having a place where people can share because I think we've all found a couple things that have been like, oh, that's really good. Like we know when we found something that's
Yeah.
good,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's just rare to find those things. So maybe having a place that compiles that list together and shares it with other people, I think that's great. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. This is very like, if you don't mind me like tangenting for a minute or two, this is an interesting thing. I was thinking about this because it's like today, um, what is best kind of comes from, it kind of come like we expect it to come from the future, or where it's going to be discovered,
Mm-hmm.
because we live in a society of like, with like technology, and like, 20 years ago we couldn't do any, like this would not be
Mm-hmm.
possible, but we're doing
Mm-hmm.
this, and so we expect these things to come from kind of discoveries, and because it's a discovery, it's like, it's kind of like we're like kind of chasing the tail of the future to
Yeah.
look for what is best. But like if you think about humans, like uh, you know 1,000 years ago, they weren't looking to the future. They weren't like waiting on the waiting for the future to come to get the best thing or something.
Yeah.
Like the next the shovel that's coming out 10 years from now is going to be the same shovel that
Yeah. Yeah.
someone had.
Yeah. Yeah.
The cart is not, nothing was advancing like that. So I think people look to the past actually a
Hmm.
lot, for what was best and what was, and of course, I mean, we still look to the past in some extent for those things. But
Hmm.
things I think like wisdom and things that are kind of passed down, that come from the past and are given to the present. I feel like it's all been kind of reversed, and
Hmm.
we're kind of looking towards the future, for what is kind of like what is best, and yeah, I mean, what's most effective, and things like that. But I think the past is still full of
Many
full of
lessons.
good, full of many lessons, and
Yeah.
probably a lot of it was really like well tested too. So there's a lot of good stuff back back there to pull from, to use
Yeah.
in the present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You just reminded me of a podcast that I was recommended and really have gotten into, called Revisionist History,
Mm.
and the whole kind of sh- what shtick of it, how you want to say it,
Yeah.
is that it's taking a look at things from the past that maybe were glossed over or never really got a chance to have a spotlight or be really digested. And so it's like all these amazing lessons that in the podcast they just, the guy does his research, and it's all great interviews and all this stuff. But I feel like that's kind of what you're saying, is like there's all these things we as a society have now just reached this exponential climb of technology and growth, that yeah, we think everything good is something that needs to be developed. The good is something that's going to be innovation, rather than thinking that maybe the good is something that we ran over 50 years ago,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's a really interesting point too. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah, it just occurred to me the other day when I was writing about the
Mm.
ideas. I was like, oh my god, that's a very new development. It
Yeah.
wasn't. I don't think it was really like. I mean, it hasn't. Not very many generations of humans have been thinking in this way. So
Yeah.
it's very new, very different. And I don't know how well it's working either.
Hmm.
We have there's a lot of down. I don't know. There's a lot of downsides to the great upsides we get as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The yeah, the stakes are getting much higher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for giving that introduction. That was awesome. Yeah, I'm excited for that. And sign up for his newsletter if you want to stay in tune for that. But um, yeah, moving on to the next question.
Sorry, that was a lot.
Oh no,
Long.
no, this is why I do this. I love, yeah, like I
Cool.
said, it's a rapid fire question.
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, heavy quotation marks. Where was I? Oh, I was gonna ask. We kind of touched on this, but when you find yourself struggling or losing sight of what it is you're doing, what is one thing you do to refocus and kind of get back up and keep creating? Because I know you're kind of talking about, we didn't totally talk about this in the interview, but I've talked with you before about you've kind of been this period during COVID of reaching a kind of a writer's block period and trying to break through that. So maybe what is one thing that you found helpful to getting things going again, starting that wheel rolling up?
Yeah, yeah. So my big thing with writer's block was I love going to coffee shop and writing. Like,
Mm.
you live at your parents' house, it's nice to go to coffee shop and write. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, a little different energy to the thing, and you feel a little better about being there.
Yeah.
and that worked well for that's a place I've always traveling, anything, that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of my go-to place. I haven't gone to one since March, so that was a problem for a long time. So I was trying to, for a long time, I was just like, man, like, I cannot get to I can't go to the coffee shop. I can't go, like, and I was like trying to sort of uh just my mind was just so focused on that I couldn't go to the coffee shop, rather than like looking for like the solution. It was just like, how do I get back to the coffee shop? How do I
Yeah.
recreate the
Yeah.
coffee shop? And and the and the solution ended up just being like finding a new kind of means of like inspiration, sort of a new
Mm.
well to sit on. Because the coffee shop has nice air to it, and there's people bustling around,
Yeah. It's good
and
energy.
it's good energy, and and I needed another place of good energy, not another coffee shop. And I've kind of found that over the past 3 or 4 weeks in just getting up, and well, I bought a 100-year-old table, about a
Mm.
100-year-old like fold out like desk kind of thing. And it's a really nice desk. It feels it's pretty inspiring to sit at.
Mm.
I just bought it off Craigslist for like $70, and stuck that in my parents' backyard, and at to write really early in the morning one day, and that was it.
Mm.
Like the sun was rising, and there's this like twilight, like that like twilight light. I mean, twilight, whatever. Twilight's in the evening, but whatever that its equivalent
Yeah.
is in the morning,
Yeah.
is very inspiring. And I kind of just like bundle up out there every morning and go sit out with the sunrise. And even if even if I had a rough, if I had a rough last night or
Mm-hmm.
day before that or anything, the being around the sunrise and like watching the world sort of come to life and into day is like enough juice for me to write.
Mm.
So I guess just like if you have a problem, like I think we need to think more like with problems. It's like it always helps to think very laterally, and like I think it's just like a tendency to like try harder in one way, but like to try to think like in a different direction rather than harder in the same direction can be uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
helpful. It's easy to do that.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
My next question was, what are three things you do daily? And I asked that because I know you're a man of ritual. I get that sense, and I know you talk a little bit about that on your blog sometimes as well. But I'm curious, what are three things that you do daily that you found
Yeah.
beneficial to make ritualized, so to
Yeah.
speak?
Yeah. I do. I'm really big on exercise. On exercise daily. I think it's something I've I've been kind of running since I was like middle school,
Mm.
and I love to run. Love to lift weights and stuff, uh, and so I use exercise as like if I write in the morning, I sit out there and write for 3 or 4 hours, and then I need to move. I have lots of
Mm-hmm.
energy pent up from sitting around, and
Mm.
maybe frustrated with because I got stuck whenever wherever I finished, and I'll just go on a 3 mile run or something, or
Mm.
lift weights, and that's kind of renewing, and I can go back to working with like a fresh brain kind of again.
Yeah.
So exercise would be one thing. Um, Writing is another. I try to write. I try to write pretty much every day. I do some sort of creative act at least.
Mm-hmm.
And a third thing I do every day, uh, I remember death.
Mm.
Just looking over at my coin.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's no, I just, yeah,
Mm.
I have a lot of different ways to kind of set my perspective right.
Mm.
Whether it be remembering death or meditation or, uh, yeah, I don't know. It's just all those sorts of like mental tools and perspective shifting uh, types of things.
Mm.
So
Cool.
that
Yeah.
would be my third one.
Yeah, for sure. Those are, excuse me,
You could.
just choked on my tea. Can't swallow and talk at the same time. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Whew. Uh, yeah, no, I think that is something I'm trying to get better at because I'm someone who especially I've realized I thrive when I have schedule and things that I can count on. I work
Yeah.
well in that situation. So, but I've struggled to do that for the past couple of years. So, yeah, that's great advice. Um, this is kind of a typical question, but I'm curious what your answer will be because you just have a very different perspective. So, what is one thing you would save in a fire?
Uh, my my commonplace book, which is uh, those 4 boxes up there, are full of
Mm.
note cards from uh, all those books and a bunch of others that are now somewhere else. But every book I read, I go through, and if I see anything that's like particularly useful or profound, I just like put asterisk marks next to it, just
Mm.
at the beginning and the end of whatever like couple sentences I want to grab. And and after I finish the book, I'll go back through and I will write down those passages on 3x5 index cards.
Mm.
And so those 4 boxes up there are like I probably 2,000 or 2,500 quotes from books that I found like mind blowing at the time, and it's really like it's really cool to read through that because you develop these ideas, you kind of like understand these ideas from books. The author helps develop this idea in your head, and then having a couple sentences like the kernel of that idea, and reading through that, pulling a stack of those out and reading through 100 of them, it just
Mm-hmm.
like it like pops your mind like back to all those places, and renews all those ideas that someone spent a long time explaining to you, can be like kind of jolted back into your mind in like 3 seconds. You don't even have to read the whole card. You like kind of just, oh, and that's kind of it's like my library of condensed profoundness or something, and it's my
Wow.
most prized possession.
Wow, that's really cool because that's something that I've thought about as well. Is just how it's so easy. I'm sure there's people out there who just have like great minds who can just remember everything, but I feel like for the majority of people, you have all these great experiences, these great conversations, you read these great books, and you're like, man, this is so important. This is just transformational, and then tomorrow you've forgotten it already.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and for me, like one thing I did in a small way started taking notes after I had conversations with people.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first time we talked, I wrote down stuff because it was just like I want to remember this. I don't want to leave this and just always look back and think, wow, that was such a great conversation, but I have no remembrance of what it all we talked about. And that's actually been something great with like Cedar Weekly, and what I'm doing now is that I'm having these great conversations, but it's
Yeah,
recorded. And so when I
yeah,
want to go back, I can go back and listen and learn again. So that's amazing. I think my brother has started doing that as well from being inspired by you. And maybe I'll have to do that too, because especially with books, I've started to get back into reading, trying to start reading the books you recommended. But yeah, that's a great idea. Maybe I'll start doing that.
Yeah, that is a that is. And I should also, is not like I got that idea from a author named Ryan Holiday, and he got that idea from an author named Robert Greene, and Robert Greene got that idea from like Thomas Thomas Jefferson, and Thomas Jefferson, like
Yeah,
everyone,
it's
but
passed
like
down.
but like in Thomas Jefferson's era and like back for hundreds of years, people like all sorts of like if you were like an intellectual, you had a commonplace book, like you know,
Mm.
3x5 index cards, but you had a notebook that you kept
Yeah.
everything in, because yeah, it was like it was an outboard memory, because our memory
Mm.
sucks kind of. We're not, yeah, we really don't have very, like, I forget all sorts of, I feel like I forget everything, but the things I write down and go over or can return to and repeat, those are the things that stick.
Yeah.
And when you can choose the things that you want to stick in your head, that's a pretty cool thing. Yeah.
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 Wow. Well, switching gears just a little bit, but um, what is one country you'd love to visit that you haven't gotten a chance to yet?
Mm. Uh, I I kind of want to go to Morocco.
Mm.
Um,
I have friends from there. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
cool place.
yeah. I've heard some cool things. I had a really good friend who studied abroad there, and I've also heard there's good surfing too, and
Yeah, yeah. There's that.
that's where we're gonna go surf
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
I
Yes.
already booked the tickets. Yeah.
Oh man, that would be nice.
We'll just paddle across the Atlantic.
Yeah,
It'll be the
yeah.
next big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Since I've already done the cross country bike ride, we might as well just
Cross an
get in
ocean.
and start rowing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure somebody's done it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Straight from
Well,
Morocco.
yeah. Well, that's a great place. Two more of these. If you could have all of us read one book, what would it be?
Oh gosh. I'll go with Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, um,
Mm,
because it's just loaded with like really profound, good ideas. It's a novel. It's just like a novel written by this guy. Like I think it was like 150 or 200 years ago he wrote it. It's not like a religious. It's not like Buddhism. It's just his kind of take
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
on kind of more Eastern philosophy, I guess. But
Okay.
it's only like 160 pages, and it's a small book, and it is just I think it's like kind of like a source you could drink from for a lifetime.
Hmm. Wow. Awesome. Then lastly, the question I like to ask all my guests is, what advice would you give to someone who looks up to you?
Oh, uh, I would what advice would I give? I mean, I just I think my advice would be, don't forget how crazy life is.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that there is, I love the, maybe I just particularly love the sensation of wonder and awe, but is a good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be tapped into pretty much any time if you kind of you know, remember how, if you just look at how crazy everything is, like and take a moment to just like stop and realize what you are, what you're really, you know, what you're really doing at this moment. And not on, the thing is to like look at that not on your on the scale you're looking at it, you know.
Mm.
like for example, we're, you know, I'm really like tapped into us having this podcast right now, but I said that I looked around my room and I was like, oh yeah, like, and it like flipped back to like, oh, we're on a rock in
Reality.
space, you
Yeah.
know, like like there's something, and like, wow, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think yeah, don't forget how crazy this is a
Mm.
uh yeah, that's my little nugget of wisdom to drop in everyone's
Don't forget to wonder.
minds. Yeah, don't forget
Yeah.
to wonder.
Had
Don't
had
forget to wonder.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's
Wow.
it's potent. Yeah.
Well, lastly, I like to talk about 2020 a little bit, and I know this we've talked a bit about it because this has had a huge impact in your life and changed the direction you were headed in, and like you were saying, has been the source of positives and negatives. Um, but for people in 2020, and this is a question I feel like goes beyond this, but I feel like it's especially true now. But for people who are listening today who maybe find themselves in that stagnant place that we're talking about, that just kind of feeling stuck, um, living a life fit into a mold, living just going with the flow, or feeling like they have these aspirations but are not able to pursue them. Where do they start? What choice can they make, or experiences they can pursue that could lead them in a direction of this powerful mindset that you've been talking about, this kind of transformational philosophy of wonder and appreciating experiencing and remembering death? Like, these are all fantastic things. But where do we start? Where, for someone maybe who hasn't had, who's just being introduced to this, maybe who's just kind of getting a chance to be like, gosh, why am I doing this? I'm just kind of doing what everyone always told me to do, and my heart's not in it. Or maybe my heart is in something, but I'm not doing anything that I feel like my heart is in. Where do they start?
Yeah. I guess I have two easy actionable pieces of advice. First one would be to read books,
Hmm.
and the second one would be to go for really long walks.
Hmm.
Um, I think that I stagnate here. I definitely stagnate here sometimes, and I think that like when I stagnate, uh, I'm inside. I am caught up on some, there's something my mind is like, stuck on,
Hmm.
and walking is the walking is the answer. It is amazing if you go out for like a 3 hour long walk. Just go out and just walk and
Hmm.
walk, and when you come back, time like it's very good for you, and it'll cause all sorts of chemical changes in your head that make you feel better. But time will also have passed, and like with time, like things change, and the same thing that like the coronavirus pandemic right now, like that's something I like lean on
Yeah.
quite heavy, is that over like the only, like people say like the only constant is change,
Hmm.
and if you can just, by holding out and going for really long walks, we can we can pass some time, something will change, and we'll be in a new situation.
Hmm. Hmm.
um,
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and books have all the good answers that people have come up with thus far in them. So,
Yeah.
books and long walks would be my answer to that for sure.
Wow. Yeah. Solid piece of advice. Um, well, Ethan, thank you so much for being here today. It's just, yeah, as I said, I have so much that I'd love to talk to you about, but I'm glad that we could have this conversation today. So,
Me too. This has been
yeah.
it's been fantastic. I don't have like a ton of social interaction right now, so to have a conversation like this is like unbelievable. Honestly, I've enjoyed it immensely myself, and thank you very very much for having me on your show, on your podcast. I
Well,
appreciate it.
for sure. Yeah, any time. But yeah, and I just want to again let people know you've got a blog that you should go and check out, with tons of amazing articles. You send out a great newsletter where you kind of share more stuff, and it's up to date on what you're working on. And you have a few great free resources. You have one on traveling, I know.
Yeah,
And what other ways can people
yeah.
get
Well,
involved?
yeah. That's a. I mean, maybe not one for right now with the coronavirus, but I wrote this free like downloadable guide called Go, a
Mm,
ridiculously useful guide to cheap unconventional travel.
mm,
And that's just like if you want to travel after coronavirus is then that's a very good resource to pull from. It has a lot of just like all the things that I've used to fly everywhere for virtually free and find really cool jobs in places like Yellowstone and stuff like that. So that's really awesome thing to get started with.
Mm.
But yeah, I have an Instagram. It's at Ethan.Maurice, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope so.
I'll link
And
it.
yeah, if you link it, that'd be
I'll
awesome.
be
But
some
yeah,
other random person.
yeah. And my website is ethanmaurice.com. But that'd be the best place to go, honestly, if anyone
Yeah.
wants to check anything out. I
Awesome.
appreciate the plug.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, check out below. I'll post some more interesting information below. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us on week 9 of Cedar Weekly. Thanks for being patient for the next episode. I took a week off, but thank you so much, and stay tuned for next week's exclusive interview with photographer Malik Dealman. And yeah, thank you again, Ethan. It was such a pleasure, and we'll see you next time.
Pleasure is mine. Thanks. Bye,
Take
everybody.
care, man. Yeah.